Intro here.
The Mitch Burns.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Film Vaulters. Yes, this is the Film Vaulters with the Mitch Burns. I am here today with my friend and former, no, you still are, fellow Lamoid. We will describe what that is shortly. Um, and we are going live. We are live on Twitch and YouTube, Facebook. I think it goes to there. I don't know. Um, Probably only my mom used that. But Blake, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. This is
Oh,
awesome.
I'm. Yeah, you're welcome. Do you have any control on that mic on the game? Because you might need to be turned up a little bit.
Yes,
You
I
sound,
do.
okay,
Is this a
that
little bit
sounds
better?
great. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I see the level on my screen now, so that's
Okay.
better.
Yeah, that's perfect. Um, so yeah, Blake and I today are doing top five movies, top five R-rated movies that you can't wait to show your children. Um, so Blake,
Yes.
you don't have children.
I
How old
don't.
are
No,
you?
I do not. I'm 23.
You're 23. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't have kids till I was 27. I'm 34 now. So I have a 10-year-old and I have an 8-year-old. Well, he's going to be 10 in a month. Um, so yeah, I have been showing the movies. I think you noticed through my letterboxed that I've been doing the MCU with them right now.
I
So
did see that. Yeah.
yeah, so that's been fun. I'm actually a little nervous. I don't know. Are you a Marvel fan?
I am. Yeah. Not early, I got into it a lot later. I was like probably a
Yeah,
teenager.
yeah.
But I started following it heavily, and I've loved it ever
Good.
since. I still follow it. I'm still a fanboy. Sorry,
Mm,
haters, but I'm a
me
fanboy
too.
still.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I am too. This is probably my third or fourth go through of the series, which I don't think I'll do again now that I'm showing the kids. But I just want them to get caught up so they can come to the theater with me and nerd out with me and watch these movies. Um,
Yeah,
so Blake, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know a little bit about you because we
yeah.
are friends. But where do you live in this? You live in the United States. What state do you live in?
I am born and raised in Central Illinois. I'm in a really small town, 3,600 people.
Wow.
Um, I graduated with a class of about, I think it was like 50 people, 50 to 70 people.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so we like all knew each other.
Yeah.
And uh, it was a really nice kind of tight knit town. Very which is really nice getting in a small town like this. Everybody's really friendly and um, everybody's pretty close. I would say even if you don't know somebody personally, you know somebody who knows them or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But yeah, I've grown up here. And lived here my whole life.
All
And it's great.
23
I wouldn't change
years.
it for the world.
Yeah.
All 23 years.
I
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the same way. Small town Ontario. Went to a school that probably had about the same 50 kids I graduated with, maybe more. Um, but it's yeah, the town I think is about 30,000, but I mean that's kind of big for a country town in Ontario, right? So yeah, so okay, so Illinois,
Hmm.
and you make music. So let's get into that. I've heard
Yeah.
some of it, and but I haven't really dove into your process and what you do.
Yeah. So I've grown up musically through a lot of my life. My parents weren't super musical, but on my dad's side, like his dad and all of his relatives and friends and stuff were playing music. So that's kind of where I guess it skipped a generation and kind of just went to me. But um, I started playing guitar when I was 8, so super young, and then picked up drums in like middle school, and then can kind of dabble in some other stuff. But I got into the production side of music. That really interested me when I got older. So I
Yeah.
was in high school, 18, 19. So I graduated high school and then decided I kind of wanted to do that. So I went to college for it for a little while and got a bachelor's degree in
Nice.
music production.
Oh,
And
sick.
so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. It's right now I'm just kind of doing some freelancing stuff. I'm working on a portfolio website right now.
Yeah.
So anybody watching, hopefully it'll be up soon so you can check it out. But and then working also on some solo EP to hopefully have out by the end of the year. Kind of just
Cool.
testing the waters and dipping my toes in
Yeah.
right now. But I took about 2.5 years of classes learning to figure it out, and I think I got it. But I love doing it.
That's
It's a
awesome.
great hobby. So
I did not know you took it in college. That's really cool.
yeah,
Was it college in Illinois or?
So I took a year of a community college here.
Yeah.
But I just didn't really. It wasn't as hands-on as I was hoping it was.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
a big hands-on person and a visual learner, and
for sure.
I like to do it all.
Exactly.
So I looked into some other schools, and actually, my guitar teacher that I was taking lessons from for about actually like 10 years or so, he went to a school in Florida here in the States as well, but he took it all online, and it's very
Oh,
expensive. It's expensive to to move at all for college and all those costs and stuff. So I decided to save a little bit of money and kind of just took it all right from here where I was comfortable, and
yeah.
it's all very hands on. It's a great school. They sent me a nice care package of some gear and stuff that I was using, and now I get to keep, which I'm very thankful for. And I was very happy to learn hands on instead of kind of just textbooky. I'm not a big textbook guy. I like
No.
doing everything I need to learn.
I am not a big textbook guy either. I totally get it. That's why movies, right?
Exactly.
And movies are such a way for us to learn. And like I have friends who say, like, sometimes when there's big events happening, they'll say like, I'll wait until the movie and then I'll figure out what's going on. You know, because sometimes politics is all over the place. You're not sure what's real, what's not, and then when a movie comes out, you kind of see it and take it in, and it's not so hands on.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's more, yeah, visual learner. But
Definitely.
so what else was I gonna say? So can people follow you on Instagram? Is that the best place for them to like follow you right now, or
For sure. Yeah,
is
that
there?
I'm most active there. I have a couple other socials too. Like I mostly just post TikTok or I mostly doom scroll TikTok, but I post there occasionally as well. But
Okay.
and then Facebook, Instagram is where I'm most active. I
Okay.
post stories and posts and DMs and stuff. I'm all about Instagram. So
Cool. What is the handle? I will put it in the show notes, but just anyone who's listening right now.
oh yes, it is at Blake Walker Audio. So it's just my first and last name with audio attached to it. No spaces, anything like that. So give me a follow, check it out.
I mean, I'll be completely honest. I think most of the stuff you've posted right now is not my style, but I know most of my friends in the Cinematics Facebook group like will definitely love a lot of what you do from the little bits I've heard and stuff. So
Sure.
And I've seen some of your tastes in your story, like some of the stuff you share, and I know it's similar to what I've seen. So
that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to like it. That's fine. You don't have to like it.
I mean, I'm still gonna listen.
and
I'm
that's fair.
still gonna
I appreciate
support.
that.
Exactly. Um, yeah, that's just, I you gotta support even if you
It's a
don't
genre.
love it.
It's a
Like,
genre that's not for everybody. I get it.
yeah.
And there's genres that people like. So, there's stuff that I don't like.
Oh yeah, for
Which
sure.
and but and really actually funny enough, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, good. Yeah,
But
cut me off.
um, this was actually it's funny enough. It wasn't a genre that I was really into for a
Oh,
long time. So I didn't really I hated it, to be honest with you. I was like, I hate this kind of stuff. It just wasn't for me. But I kind of started getting more open to it as I got older, and
yeah.
now it's kind of really all I listen to. My taste is, I would say, not as all over the place as it used to be. It's kind of more shoehorned into kind of what you see on my Instagram stories and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a couple other things that I kind of take influence from, but yeah, mostly it's that heavy stuff for me. I don't know what it is, and I'm a guitar player too, so that's kind of what it is for me. I like
Okay.
I like I like the guitar stuff and a lot of the instrumentation as well, but it's the instrumentation that really drives it to me.
Are you electric then? Electric bass or
Electric guitar, yeah. That's I mean
okay.
I started learning on acoustic, but
Okay.
nowadays I mostly will play we'll play
Okay.
something on the electric guitar, but yeah,
My dad is in bands and he's very musical, so I know a little bit from him, but he's more folk, country. He's getting into
sure.
rock now with the band he's in because he does bass and some lead vocals. Yeah, so but let's pivot away from music and we'll talk about your other love,
Oh yeah.
which again we've kind of talked about. You got into late, which is movies, obviously.
Hmm.
But you're 23, so I mean, like when that's about when I, really started to love movies, and then got into like writing reviews and stuff like that. So you don't, it's not something, you have to. It's not like a sport, right? Like you're all of a sudden you're just like, well, I'm gonna watch movies, like, and then you're like, damn, I fucking love movies, and
Yeah.
yeah. um, we have a comment. How do you all feel about flutes? Um, I've got I've got no response to that. I don't know, Blake. How do you feel about flutes?
They're great, I mean, um I don't know. I'm not respect to woodwind players, but it's just not my thing. They're cool.
Respect.
They work.
Anyway, so what's your like favorite movies if you had to pick like top 4, top 3, whatever? What are your favorites and like maybe your favorite genres?
Oh, this is like I watch those letterbox top 4 videos all the time, and I'm like, I dream of one day being asked that. So
Me too.
we're gonna do
Me
the letterbox
too.
top 4. We're gonna do it.
Here,
Um,
here, here you
but
go.
we'll
Blake
I like it.
Walker, top
Okay, let's
5,
do it.
your top 4.
Hmm. Let's do it. Well, I'll start with genres since I heard that you asked that too. Mostly horror. That's big for me. Um,
Same,
but I like I guess thriller and horror could kind of you can combine it.
for sure.
I would say those two. I love a good like just heightened action movie. Like I love like a good Bond film or Mission Impossible or just anything that's a heightened experience when you're watching it.
For sure.
Um, but and drama especially. I love just a
Me
good
too.
drama film too. Those three I would say. But top 4 favorite films of all time. Uh, one of which is The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. I love the trilogy, and to me the trilogy is one movie, which
Yeah.
it always is and always will be.
Agreed.
Um, but if I had to pick one, because I can only pick one on Letterboxd, it would be Return of the King. I think, um, I just think it's a great end to the story, but it's also it's just so fun. It's just so fun, and
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in a long time because I'm a firm believer of when I'm watching it, it has to be the extended edition, and it's like 4 hours, so I have to really commit time to do it. But I love the movie; it's so good.
Yep.
Um, And then Scream would follow that, the original from '97. That's my favorite horror film of all time, and it's my favorite classic horror film. It's just my favorite slasher film. Again, it's a fun time. Um, I've heard people a lot of times say after rewatching it, that doesn't have the same effect because of the reveal or whatever. And I won't spoil it, but I think it's just as fun every time. Like, I think it's great. It
Yeah.
doesn't take away from my experience of rewatching that movie ever. Um, this is a really fun one. I get a lot of crap for this one, but I have on here Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's why: it's because I grew up with the prequels, so that was those were coming out, when I was growing up. So those are my introduction to those movies, and I love that third movie. It's just, I to me, I say it's perfect. It's just it's a great connecting movie to what we saw
Great.
before, and then leading into the future.
Yeah.
And I think the acting from Hayden Christensen is way better than the Attack of the Clones. And the tragedy in that movie, it just gets me every time.
Yeah.
And lastly is Pulp Fiction, a classic. That was a movie I hadn't seen for a long time. I still haven't seen a lot of classic films, but that's one that I'm proud to say I saw very early on in my life, and I haven't rewatched it in a long time because it's kind of one of those you have to wait for a while, in my opinion. But but I just love it. It's so good. So I think that's a kind of a broad spectrum of my taste, I would say.
No, that I think that's great. I'm right there with you on Return of the King. I love that whole series. I will never watch it without watching the extended edition, because it's just, yeah.
Good.
You miss so much, and especially if I'm showing it to someone for the first time, it's like I sit there and I think like, oh, like you're missing this, and like if you saw this, you would get more of who this character is, and like some of the stuff with Elrond and Liv Tyler's character,
Arwen.
thank you, Arwen. If you want him,
I got you.
come and get him.
It's
Yeah, I
gold.
I know.
Gold.
No, so I would probably say Return of the King as well. And it's funny because I thought that was just everybody's favorite, but like most people are like Fellowship, Two Towers, and then Return of the King. But I think for us younger people, like Return of the King was such an event, like, and it was so big and we were so excited, that I think it hit us differently than it did other maybe people older or in different mindsets. But and then Scream, it's funny for you to call it a classic because for me it came out in 96, and then
yeah.
But it's a classic. It has reached classic status for sure.
It's timeless, I think.
Agreed. And Star Wars Revenge of the Sith is the best, I think, of those three. I like those movies too because they were being released while I was little, and that's when I started to get into Star Wars and stuff. So I totally feel you. And Revenge of the Sith is coming back to theaters did you see that in a few weeks?
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm probably gonna check that out because
me too.
Again, I was too young. I was 3 when that movie came out.
Yeah. So it's
I was too young to see that.
Yep, totally. I didn't go see any of them in theaters, but like I remember when they were on VHS, like my dad got them and we watched them. But like I was still little and I didn't really know what was going on, but I still loved it. And it was funny because back then Jar Jar didn't annoy me, and it was kind of all fun and goofy. But now it's like, yeah. I've never watched a Star Wars. Well, you can rectify that, Forrest. So yeah, no, that's good.
Change that. Sorry.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get into how you and I know each other. I have been a part of we are a horror group called the Lamoids. stupid name, but we love it. We're Lamoids. We love each other. We're all friends, and we every 2 weeks, one person gets to assign a movie and a horror movie, and we watch it no matter what. You have to watch it. I have made the people in the group watch some awful movies and some great movies. And Blake, you've only assigned one so far. You're our newest member, or have you assigned two yet?
I haven't been yet. Actually, I'm yet to have a pick yet.
What? Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you assigned one. Oh man. So
I
I
haven't yet. No,
I think you're next then. I think you're next to assign, or if not, it's Robert and then you.
I
But
think
yeah,
so.
no.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and I mean, I always go with the quote: "Friends that introduce you to new movies are great friends," and it's good, and it gets you out there and watching movies that you probably would never have seen or never wanted to see. Like when it comes to Feeders, from the 90s. Anybody, if you have not heard of the movie Feeders, it is an alien movie. Look it up right now. Watch a trailer or something. It is unintentionally hilarious. Yeah.
Let me let me just mention too. It has two sequels.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate part.
And I'm kind of interested in a weird way, like to
Yeah,
just see what they're like, if they get better or worse. John used to be a member of the Lamoids. He says, "Oh, I miss the Lamoids." So I will get more members of them on here, hopefully. But yeah, so today we are doing top 5 R-rated movies you can't wait to show your children. Now, Blake,
yes.
what's on the poster behind you? What movie poster is that?
This is actually not a movie poster. This
Oh,
is an album cover. It's a flag for an album cover. One of my favorite records of all time.
well,
Metal fans, it's Ice Nine Kills.
oh,
They
okay.
do. They're a horror movie band, so they have two albums with songs that they're inspired by horror films. Um, so uh, that of course that's what gravitated me towards them. But also they're just great songwriters and musicians. So they make great music, but also just about content that I like. So it's kind of a win-win.
How do I Ice Nine Kills? How do I know them?
They're You've probably seen them on my story because I post them
Okay.
all the time.
And I know I have friends that might listen to this that like Ice Nine Kills, and I don't know if John liked them. He's listening, so he might jump in. But yeah. So okay, so that's cool. I just needed to know that before I continued. Now we were
Yeah, so
talking
I have
earlier.
this. We're sitting at we're. I don't, sorry, and I don't mean to cut you off again. We're just sitting
No.
in my studio. So this I just have this hanging up here because it's a very nice. You know, I, it fits the music theme in here. But actually, funny enough, off camera you can't see it, but I have this like I call it like the horror corner. It's just I have
Okay.
this like shelf of just like horror stuff over here. Um,
I have
so
my
it's kind of
horror
out of
stuff over
place in
there.
here. It's out of
Yeah.
place in this room, but it's fine. Whatever.
Horror is punk rock. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? It kind of all mixes together, right?
For
Um,
sure, yeah. And I mean,
but
actually, I'm gonna hit you with a fun fact, just this weird random fun fact, but actually funny. Ice Nine Kills just did the official song for Terrifier 3. So
oh,
they you can stream it. I don't. It's not on like a soundtrack or anything, but they released it in collaboration with the movie, and actually, it is in the movie. But it's very subtle. It's playing. I don't know anybody that's seen the movie. I won't spoil it necessarily, but it's a very small part um, in a scene in the dorm room that's playing on the radio in the background. So if you know the song, listen for it. If you didn't hear it the first time,
I will. I mean, that's probably where I heard them most recently, because I think it was eligible to be on the short list for Oscar nominations for best song of the year.
No.
So I think I came across that and I was like, what? Terrifier 3 could get an Oscar nomination? Um, I don't know if you can see that on the screen there. Blake, do you like Type O Negative?
So I have not listened to the band, but I've heard of the name.
Okay,
But I will. I have a huge list of bands on my phone, so I will add it to that.
cool,
Just because of that.
cool. So we are doing top 5 movies that you cannot wait to show your children. Oh, sorry, top 5 R-rated movies you can't wait to show your children. Top 5 movies you can't wait to show your children would have been much easier because it is not as easy as you think to find out what a movie is rated. Um, Especially like I use Letterboxd and I go through my some of my favorites. I go down and I look at like okay, I want to show them this and then I check like Jaws is only rated PG-13. I thought of Jaws, right? Because that was like the first movie to
Of
really
course.
scare me. Um, and then yeah, so and then I've already shown them Jurassic Park, so I checked Jurassic Park and it's PG-13. I'm like, okay, good. So I haven't shown them a rated R movie. Oh my god. Okay. And I'm going to tell you a story just quickly here while it's in my brain
Oh, please.
about the first horror movie I mean, the first movie that I watched with my oldest son. Um, he was 2 months old and he was sitting, like, I was holding him. Well, I had my laptop open. He was asleep, and I had my laptop open watching Human Centipede 2. So technically, that is the first movie him and I watched together, which
Iconic.
could get Child Protective Services called on me, but I swear he was asleep. And that is to this day the worst movie I've ever, not worst, but the hardest to watch movie I've ever seen. Um,
I still have not seen those films, but I've heard lots about them.
I mean, if you would have interest at all, I'd say watch the first one. It is not an awful movie, and it is an interesting kind of cop detective movie. But after that, just stop. Um,
Okay, fair.
and so, how did culling this list go for you?
Well, there was a few immediately that I thought of,
Yeah,
but and then there were a couple that I kind of had to like remember, um, and remember even if they were rated R, just because I hadn't seen them in a long time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but also too, like a lot of times if I'm checking that on a streaming service, it doesn't really say it, like it doesn't advertise it right away, so
Mhm.
you kind of just don't really pay attention to that. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah. It's funny.
the
Like
top
back in the
five, yeah,
day, it's back in the day. Like the rating was, like, you know what I mean. And now it's like it's hidden when you go to Google. Like it's hard to find what the rating is. I I kept putting in like you know Jurassic Park rating, and then it would show me like people's reviews, and I'm like, no, no, no. What is it rated? And so you have to put in Jurassic Park rated, and then it'll come up.
yeah,
So that was something I learned doing this. But yeah,
yeah.
sorry, continue.
No, I was just gonna say that just reminded me of something funny. Like I go to the theater a lot, which um
You
is
do?
I love that theater experience, and
Me too.
they I sometimes I don't know the movies rated R until I go there, and then they ask to see my ID because I go to AMC, and it's like required for them to ask for your ID. I guess at a point past a certain point, but also
Yeah.
I look like I'm young, so I get it. But
Yeah.
um, so then I'm like, oh, I honestly didn't even know this was rated R until you just told me that. So here we go.
I remember when you became a part of the group, the horror group, everyone was like, wait, 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 Blake, how old are you again? Uh, and you had to tell us, and we're like, okay, you can, as long as you're over 21, I mean, not even 21, like 19, I guess, right? Or 18. But it's, because some movies I would feel, I made them watch not Solo, but the other one that are Serbian film, and I
Oh,
don't I don't know if I would have felt good if an 18-year-old had to watch that. So yeah.
I haven't seen that one, but I've heard it's intense, I guess is the word.
Yeah, yeah. I still haven't seen Solo or 120 Days of Sodom, I think it's called, but I will sign that soon. Um, how was your experience watching The Hip Hop Witch?
Well,
And be
so
honest,
it wasn't great. It I mean, I had looked into the film a little bit when you guys were
oh yeah,
talking about it, of course. So I kind of knew what I was getting into, and
yeah,
I knew it probably was gonna be pretty dumb, but it just was beyond. Like it was just not even close to what I was expecting. It's just the editing is just so weird that it just was like again, it was just not even close to what I was expecting.
no,
It was like even worse than what I was expecting.
it's not dumb. It's not even a movie. Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's dumb in the fact that they went around and pretended to do all this, oh god. But anyways, that movie got kind of famous in our group, and then I took it over to the cinematics group, and it's become bigger amongst some of my friends and stuff, and they have watched it, and it's brought a lot of people together, and it's tore people apart. That movie, it's just fucking awful. It's the worst movie I've ever seen, hands down,
Yeah,
hands down.
I think I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's what I put in my review on Letterboxd, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Do you remember like your first R-rated movie you saw,
Um,
or
ooh,
like
that's
your the first one that maybe you think could have been R-rated that scared you when you were little?
um. I remember. Well, I remember. There's a couple things that I'll say. One, the one that I remember seeing when I was young that scared me was one of the Saw films. I don't remember which one, but I was just too
Okay.
young to be watching it. And I just walked in. It was at my grandma's house, funny enough, and I think it was just on. Like there was no way she knew it was on. It was
Yeah.
something probably one of my older cousins threw on or something. But I walked
Yeah.
into the room. I was maybe 6 or 7, and I
Oh,
just saw Billy the Puppet, and it scared me.
oh
I
fuck yeah.
didn't see anything else. Billy the
I
Puppet freaked me out, and
I
I got
think
out of there.
they're all rated R. So I mean, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, like that. So that was I didn't have to see any content. Billy the Puppet was
Yeah,
enough to freak me out.
for sure.
Um, but then, in terms of first rated R movie I've watched, I can't remember exactly, but I remember the first rated R movie that like had an impact on me. Um, and that would be actually the 2018 Halloween, and that's because that was I think the first R-rated movie I saw in the theater,
Oh,
if I'm
okay.
not mistaken.
Shit, sorry.
So that was not exactly the first one I saw. Probably, I'm sure I probably saw other ones before that. But for some reason, that's the one I just remember the most, like early on in my
Hmm.
life, being like, this was cool, and it was a great experience in the theater. I love that movie. Um, and actually, I
Yeah,
had never seen the original before I went to see it, but I went home and watched it that night, and then I love that movie too. So that
good.
I love both of those movies.
I think if you can see on YouTube, that right there is my Halloween box set, and I love it. I don't know how well you can see. We sometimes show each other as blurry, but it records like separately. So the this will be a good recording on YouTube. Um,
Oh, cool.
so I guess I'll say a couple of my R-rated. Jeepers Creepers was one I watched with a girl. We were probably like 11, 12, and she was like really pretty, and my parents just like had these like family friends over who like we don't talk to anymore, but like they brought their daughter, and she was my age, and I'm like, in like just was so like, oh my god, and she wanted to watch like this scary movie, and I'm like, okay. And it fucked me up. Jeepers Creepers. um and then another story I have about an R-rated movie was probably one of the first ones I watched is on my list, so I'm not gonna. I'll tell that story when we get to it.
Fair.
Um,
Yeah.
So on your list, are they all movies that you would wait until they're 18 or wait until they're, 16, 17 and you feel like you can show them?
S- it's kind of actually a little bit of both. So some of them I'd probably show them like 16, 17,
Yeah.
whatever, like early teens, and then maybe a couple of them just because of some of the content.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit later.
Hmm.
Um, but and then a couple of my honorable mentions. It kind of just depends on how
Totally.
how I raise my kid. I guess but just being such a big horror guy, I feel like they would get a lot of that early on anyway. But just so many horror films are rated R, so it's kind of hard. Like, where do you draw that line? Just because there's not, in my opinion, there's not a lot of PG-13 horror that I really really like.
Me too.
Um, there's a couple like really great ones, like off the top of my head, A Quiet Place. I love that movie.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but just overall, just like there's not much that really speaks to me in that realm. So like most like the best horror films are rated R when you can push the boundaries and just go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's very few movies that I think can respect the genre of horror um and be good if they're PG-13 because like there's some movies that it's like they're a thriller more than horror, but they kind of mix it together and then you got like PG-13 and like you get the underneath intense or frightening sequences, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like that would be A Quiet Place, right? Because there wasn't really any gore, there wasn't like really a kid dies at the beginning, but you don't really see it.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, no, that's a great movie. And there was one other thing I was gonna say. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, also Signs really scared me as a kid. That was the other one I was gonna say. I don't know if you've seen
Oh,
Signs. Yeah.
I haven't yet, but I know. I think I probably know the scene you're talking about too.
Yeah.
Actually.
I can watch all the Saw movies, but when that fucking alien jumps, like just walks between a hedge and an alleyway, I, I was, oh, and then another one by him was The Sixth Sense. I literally jumped into it like, like there was like 20 minutes. They were in my friend's parents were watching it, and I started watching it, and I had nightmares for weeks. My mom ended up calling the parents and saying, "How dare you let my son watch this movie?" Um,
That's
and
good.
yeah, I don't think I was allowed to sleep over there again.
That that actually, funny enough, that reminded me. That reminded me of a story. It's not a R-rated movie, but it freaked me out. It's a PG-13 movie, but it still freaked me out. In the realm of aliens, it was Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh,
Those aliens freaked me
fuck
out. Like
yeah!
that freaked
Oh,
me out.
have you seen the older Indiana Jones movies?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those like freak me out with like the bug scenes and the heart being pulled out of the
The heart one,
chest.
the heart one
um
got me too. Yeah.
yeah, so there, but those ones I liked because they were like not too scary but scary enough. um
Mhm.
but yeah, no, we all have movies that kind of traumatize us a little bit as a children. um
Oh yeah.
so let's get into our our lists. Do you was there anything else you want to say about the making of your list? Any other issues you ran into, or um
I think really what it came down to for the top five, and this was kind of hard for me to put one over the other. These are all really close. Um, but what it came down to between, especially the five and then the honorable mentions that I have, is just kind of more of how I feel about them.
mhm,
Like all the movies I have, including the honorable mentions, I think are great and I love them all. But I think the five that I settled with are just kind of more the impact that they had on me, more
mhm.
so than the quality of them.
I agree. And that's kind of how I went into my list. And then some of them it is the quality, like I like they need to watch this movie. But I
Yeah.
also try to think like maybe they won't be film fans and I won't get to show them a lot of movies, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
okay, if I could only pick five, what would I want them to see? And I found that there were a lot of movies that I thought were rated R that weren't. They just had mature themes that I have to wait until they're probably 13, 14. So
Hmm.
if this was a PG-13 list, then I'd have a huge like list, right? But
For sure. Yeah.
anyways, um I'm gonna go first, and then you will, end up being able to go last. So we'll go five, and then you five, and then four. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, you
Uh, uh,
you want?
let, and let me just say before we get started, if I talk too long, please just I am a certified yapper. So like please if I'm going on too long, don't be afraid to
No,
stop me.
God, no, no, it's totally fine. These are a lot of these are some of my favorite movies, so I won't have a ton to say about them, but I also have like little anecdotes, you know.
Sure.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I being a like kind of like hosting a show, I guess technically is what I'm doing right now. I'm a little bit like that too, where I try to talk because in case like you're not comfortable or you're not able to say something, it's like I try to fill that empty space, and then I'm like, fuck, I talked a lot. um, but yeah, so I cheated on my list. I full on cheated. I've never done this before on the Film Vaulters, but it was just way too hard. I have 10. I have two for each. So technically I have 10, but I'm going to go five. I'm going to give two, and I have them categorized because I just couldn't pare it down. So I full on cheated. Blake, I'm sorry. I um, should have, I should have
It's
told you
okay. It's okay.
before. Do you forgive me?
I do.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
be okay.
Okay. Um, Oh, yes, Forrest. That's what happened to me with the Muppets, he says. He was used to be scared of the Muppets, and I love the Muppets, and apparently they freaked him the fuck out, and he couldn't watch the Muppets or Sesame Street or anything, which just makes me laugh. Um, okay, so we are going to get into our top fives. All right, so my first category is called I can't wait to show these R-rated movies to my kids. More like they should see these movies.
Okay.
And so you'll see when I say the movies. One is Schindler's List, and the other one is 12 Years a Slave. So those are my
Hmm.
two for that category. Can I wait to show them these movies? I mean, no. But they are two movies that I think everybody needs to see at some point in their life. Um, Schindler's List is about World War II, and what happened to the Jews, and especially there's some people in the world right now who deny that or who are letting us know that they are okay with that. Anyways, I won't go on from there, but fuck Nazis. um, and 12 Years a Slave obviously is teaching my kids about how hard African American or Black people had it in the South, hundreds or not hundreds even, uh, but years ago. And it is, yeah. So those are my two. And then I have a story about Schindler's List. This is the one I said I had a story about.
Okay.
um, so it was my grandmother is the most religious person you'll ever meet. And she doesn't watch a whole lot of whole movies. Like but she had a VHS player and she loved the Ten Commandments, and she had a movie about Noah, and that's what she would make us watch. And one day I was over and I was about 12 or 13 and I was staying there for the week because I love my grandma. And she says, Mitchell, I've been wanting to show you this movie for a long time. Come. And she is like, she's very proper, and the big problem she had with the movie showing it to me is that there's nudity in it. So she thought I could handle everything except for the nudity, because there is nudity and she's trying to explain to me it is not sexual nudity and stuff. And once I saw it, I'm like, yeah, no, I expected there to be a sex scene or something in this movie that I hadn't seen before. And yeah, there wasn't. But thanks, Grandma, for showing me that movie. And there's also, I'm sorry for talking so much, Blake, but there's also
Oh, that's okay.
another one on here, and I have to put it on here because the movie is unrated. It was unrated when it came out. I don't think the MPAA was rating movies back then or something, but it's To Kill a Mockingbird, starring Gregory Peck. It's one of my favorite movies, and I named my youngest son Atticus after the character Atticus Finch in the book and the movie. The only reason I want to wait until they're a little bit older and it could be considered a rated R movie is because the N-word is said by white people, and it is a movie of the time. But I think if they were like 13, 14, I could explain it well enough to them. So yeah, anyways, I cheated. I have 3 there. The rest of them, I only have 2. So apologies.
I'll let it slide. It's all right.
Thank you.
All right. So at 5, and again, I'll preface this list is kind of just some of my favorite R-rated films that I've seen.
Totally. Yeah, it makes sense.
Through my life that I would want to share this experience with them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them being Saw, the original.
Oh, good.
Because just nothing will top that experience of watching it for the first time.
No,
I had seen it. Exactly. I mean, that whole twist at the end is so iconic. And I had seen it for the first time, so I was really, I'll go into a little bit of detail, but I had first really kind of gotten into the horror genre during the COVID lockdown. I had nothing else to do, so I really was like, I had dipped my toes in the genre a little bit, and I would only see like the movies that were really interesting to me. But then I decided to start watching some of the what people consider just the classic and the ones everybody has to see. So I started watching these films, and I loved that first movie. And again, just that experience after I think I remember the person I was with, we were watching it and we talked for maybe 30, 45 minutes afterwards, just being like, what did we just see? Sorry, I was getting a phone call real quick. And yeah, we just couldn't believe when we were sitting there trying to remember, like, oh, well, yeah, this happened earlier on here, and that's who this person was, and whatever. Yeah. But just that experience was just unreal, and nothing will ever top it. And I had shown it to, actually, like a few weeks later, I had shown it to some of my best friends, and we, again, it was kind of 2020. We got together as a group like every week because, again, we had nothing else to do, and we would just watch movies for hours.
Yeah,
And I'd shown them the first Saw movie, and again, they all were blown away as well. They just were like, "This is awesome. This experience is unlike anything I've ever seen." And it's also kind of just a nice feeling showing it to somebody for the first time, and then them liking it just as much as you did. So that's kind of what it was about for me, and I want to again show it to somebody who was seeing it for the first time and is like, "Wow, this was awesome."
Oh, I posted something in my story recently, like if I have Alzheimer's, like, show me these movies, right? Like if I get Alzheimer's, show me these movies for the first time again. But yeah, no, that, like, and then the great thing about the Saw movies is I continue to like the next two or three. They fall off a bit, but
Mhm.
I like the connections and the characters. Like it's really interesting, and some of the twists even continue on. Um, and John Kramer is just such a interesting character that like I almost wish there was like a prequel series where he's like younger, not played by Tobin Bell. I think that would make no sense because he's like 80 now, but
Yeah, and they keep trying to age him down when he's in his 80s, and it's just come on, man.
yeah, yeah.
You're not
Um
fooling anybody.
no. So there was something else I was going to say, but no, that is one movie that I've been able to watch with somebody for the first time and watching their face and stuff and I think everybody thought it at first it was just, oh my god, someone cuts their leg off, right? That's on the
Mhm.
movie case. Um but I and then so when you sit down with somebody, they're expecting this, and it's actually not that. It's kind of like the first Human Centipede. You're expecting this, and it is that, but it's also this. Um, anyways,
No,
so
and I will say I do agree kind of mostly with your opinion on the rest of the franchise.
mhm,
I think like that first three
yeah,
was really great because again the original creators had a lot still of input during that
mhm,
time, but then after that they kind of stopped being involved and stuff. But Saw 6 is one of my favorite actually. I do like that one a lot.
I'll have to,
Um,
yeah,
but
okay,
the first seven especially, and now I guess you could throw X in there now because it's kind of it's the 10th, but it's now like one and a half, so it's this weird film that kind of falls in that. But especially those first seven, um, obviously some are better than others, but I just like the overarching story and how they all just kind of continue on throughout, and it's all
yeah,
just one big soap opera, as I like to call it.
yeah, no, totally, and that's what people say that about the MCU. It's one big kind of soap opera, right? I mean, it's not a
Yeah,
soap
for
opera; it's
sure.
action and stuff, but it's a continuing story throughout years and years.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so my number four category are two movies from the war genre that my kids need to see. I think I would show them Saving Private Ryan first. I think they need to see that, and it is just, and I obviously love that movie. It's incredible, one of Steven Spielberg's best, and as you can see, I'm a Jurassic Park fan. Um, and yeah, so the second one is kind of a little different from Saving Private Ryan. It's Inglorious Bastards, and I think they would have to, if one of them or both of them are really into film, I'd like to show them Pulp Fiction, but I could see myself starting them with Inglorious Bastards because I think it might be um, Tarantino's most accessible film. And it's a little fun, but it's also dealing with subject matter that I can explain to them, more parts about World War II and the Nazis and stuff. So yeah, so I was thinking, Schindler's List, and then they can watch Inglorious Bastards and kind of feel a little bit better after Schindler's List.
Fair.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's my war category. I thought, yeah, those ones need to go in there. But
That's a those are good. A lot of the movies you've already mentioned I haven't seen, unfortunately. But again, it's just because I kind of got started into the film pretty young, so there's still a lot of those that I haven't seen yet. But
yeah,
it
what
is a
my
plan. So
my good friend Eric Holmes, like I've messaged him before, and I've been like, man, I haven't seen like a lot of these David Lynch films. I haven't seen all this, and he's like that's great. And at first I was taken aback, and he said like, dude, I am excited for you that you get to watch these for the first time. It's like,
yeah,
and you have, your whole life, and you watch the ones you want. I understand how hard it is because there's 100 years of film and 1,000 people probably in your life saying, "Oh, you like movies? You need to watch this. You need to watch this." Um, so no, I get it. Don't be hard on yourself. I've had to learn to, especially having kids. It's like I can't sit down and watch movies all the time because,
Sure.
yeah.
And
So,
again, that's the whole part of this episode. A lot of them, a lot of the ones you want to watch could be too intense for them or too mature or
oh,
whatever. So it's
I was a little baby until I was 15, 16. I couldn't watch horror movies till I was about
exactly.
16. My dad
Yeah.
and I, we used to hunt, and he would bring me out to the woods at 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., and leave me in the dark woods by myself. And I'm sitting there thinking about every scary movie I've ever seen, wetting my pants. Um, so, yeah, I was a little baby back then. So,
For
and
sure.
that
No,
and that's
yeah, I'm
okay.
I'm the exact same. Yeah, I didn't watch horror films for a long time. I was scared scared of them for a long time, but then one day it kind of just suddenly something changed. I don't know what happened. It was just
Yeah,
um that would be a fun episode to do at some point. So I won't get into that, but yeah,
yeah,
it's something that I was really afraid to even dive into. But then I'm glad I did because now I like watching really great horror films, but then sometimes it's fun to just watch a bad one every once in a
oh yeah,
while.
for sure. Feeders. Um,
Yep.
so what is your number four?
My number four, and again, I'll say this isn't really no particular order. This is kind of just all these could be tied for number one.
Mm-hmm.
But and I know you're really gonna like this one. But I have Alien on here,
Ah, of course.
and again, it's the experience of watching it for the first time and not really
Mm-hmm.
knowing what you're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that the chest burster scene is iconic,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
had no idea about it when
Yeah.
I went into that movie. So
Really?
seeing yeah, no idea. I think I was in high school when I saw it. I think it was either 15 or 16 at the
And
time.
then there's actually a few
Sorry.
reveals in that movie. So
Yeah.
Ash, were you
Yeah.
a was that a reveal for you too? And
Yeah,
then
every pretty much everything about the movie, like all the reveals and stuff.
cool.
I knew the main thing. I knew,
Yeah.
these people on a spaceship, get hunted by an alien. That's it. I didn't know all of these other
Yeah.
things. So yeah, I was like 15 or 16, and my best friend, his dad is a huge, movie guy, and we actually started this like unofficial, but we kind of started this club, this movie club here in town, where it was just
Cool.
the two of us, his dad, maybe one of his friends, or whoever, the girls we were dating at the time or whatever. Um, and we had a double feature of Alien and Aliens.
Yeah.
So, and I guess I could put Aliens in there too with this, but specifically that first one, just that chest burster sequence, the Ash reveal,
Yeah.
and then the final reveal of the alien still being on the ship when she thinks she's safe,
Yeah.
and just everything about it.
Yeah.
It was such a fun ride. I loved it. It's just the vibe too. I love just and I think the time it came out really helped. I think propel it as well. But
For sure. For sure.
yeah, there's just something about watching it that first time that just really like I was blown away.
Yeah, and I would say there's even another twist, and I think it's the one where you think, okay, this is the main character, this male character, and then he is killed very pretty early on,
Right.
and you're kind of
Yeah.
like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. So that one shocked me. But yeah, no, my I remember my aunt telling me that my dad's parents, they went to go see it in theaters when it came out, and they came home and they were just horrified because they were like these church going, people and blah blah blah. Like, and my aunt remembers like my grandma going, "Oh, and there was a thing coming out of and so
Yeah,
you
it's
know
so memorable that sticks with you.
exactly,
And it
yeah,
is, and I can imagine probably watching it back then that was pretty fucked up.
yeah,
So it
pretty
was,
out there,
yeah. But I would have killed to see that in the theater too when it came out. That's one of those
Yeah.
movies too that I wish I could have seen in the theater.
Yeah.
Again, and that's another franchise too that I think it's got really good highs, but then its lows are pretty low.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it only has like two real lows for me, and that's Alien
Sure,
versus
yeah.
Predator Requiem and Alien 4 are the only two that
Yeah.
I skip usually if I'm doing a rewatch.
Hmm.
Um, but are you an Alien over Aliens fan, or do you like them both equal, or one more?
I think I like Alien over Aliens, but it's like right there,
Same. Yeah, same.
because they're both
Yeah,
really good. I
yeah.
just really like the horror aspect of the first one, and
Me
I
too.
like Aliens a lot,
Me too.
but it's just that them just being hunted down, that and they know it, and then
Yeah.
it's just the tension of it too.
Well, they say the first four are kind of each their own genre. Like one is horror, two is more action, three is more of a drama, and four is more comedy. Um,
Hmm.
so, and that's interesting. They all have the horror in it, obviously, but um, definitely true. So
Oh yeah.
one of these, I was gonna put both of these came up in my head, and I am not a fan of comedy in my horror very often. It has to be done right. Uh,
I
and
completely agree. I agree.
if it just there was one movie that came out a few years ago. It was the Foo Fighters and like Dave Grohl, and there was like it was like and
Oh
it just was it was just awful. I think it
yeah,
was
it was like
the
Studio
666.
Studio 666 or something. Yeah,
Yes, studios
yeah.
and it just made me realize that I don't like comedy in my horror, unless it's like the odd joke here and there. But these two are huge exceptions to the case. And so this is my number three: Shaun of the Dead and Cabin in the Woods. Those are two horror movies that I can't wait to show my kids. Um, especially with Cabin in the Woods. It's very genre bending and has some twists and some excitingness and funny moments that I think anyone would like Cabin in the Woods, even if you're a horror fan or not. Um, and Shaun of the Dead, to me, I found it hilarious. I don't know. I think people watching it today don't find it as funny, but you kind of have to like that British humor. Um, and I do. Some of it's a little dry, but yeah. So those are the two I cannot wait to make my children watch one day. What's your
Yeah,
number three?
I've seen Cabin in the Woods. I
Yeah,
have not seen Shaun of the Dead yet, but Cabin in the Woods is great.
yeah.
It's just a fun time, really more than anything.
Oh yeah, totally.
My number three is again just a movie that when I saw it I fell in love with. So it's kind of one that again I would like to pass it along to my children. That being the original Halloween. Um,
Nice. Yeah, perfect. Almost
again,
made my
again,
list.
again, yeah, exactly. Again, it's iconic, and I think it really paved the way to what we know as the slasher film.
Yeah.
Obviously Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out a few years before that, but this film really kind of made that genre explode to what it is. And then the slasher resurgence of the 80s where you're getting a Friday the 13th film every year or
Yeah.
whatever, and then
Yeah.
all these other franchises coming out of that. But
Yeah.
Halloween to me is just that definitive slasher film, and again, it's one that I just fell in love with immediately. Michael Myers was always the horror character that never really scared me too much growing up. I was like, he's just a guy in a mask. What's he gonna
Right.
do? Um,
Hmm.
and so when I again and I mentioned a little bit earlier, but I saw the 2018 remake or the reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it, um, first before I saw the original. But because of how good the 2018 one was, I was
Hmm.
like, well, I got to see, where this idea started. So then I went home that night and watched the original, and that for a long time my favorite horror film. Um, and again, it's just not, and there's not too much, crazy twists or anything going on. It's just a classic,
Yeah.
and that's why I made my list.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's probably my favorite horror movie. Well, no, but it's in the top two or three. That original, I love it so much. I think it's like the perfect Halloween movie. Obviously, it takes place on Halloween, and Michael Myers is just to me so much more interesting of a character than Freddy or Jason, just because of the way he moves and acts, and I don't know, he kind of was just it for me, and I really loved it. So yeah, so I'm glad you have it on your list. It almost made mine, but so my category for number two. See, I'm still cheating. Is the action slash drama category. It's but both of these are action movies. Two of them are my like favorite. Some of my favorite movies of all time: Mad Max Fury Road and Children of Men. Um, children. So
I
what?
can't believe I can't believe I didn't think of Fury Road. That movie's so good.
It is so good. So Children of Men, if you don't know, is a 2006 film directed by Alejandro. Oh crap, what's his name? Alfonso Cuarón. Um, and it for a long time was number one, my favorite movie of all time. When somebody asked me what it was, I mean, really, I knew at the time it was Lord of the Rings, but to try to sound more, you know, like
Film
I
bro.
knew. Yeah, exactly. I would say, oh, Children of Men, but I do fucking love that movie. And then, so funny story. My kids kind of can't wait to watch Mad Max Fury Road because I have a big framed poster of it in my apartment, and they've always asked me like, is that movie scary? When can we watch it? And it came out the year my oldest son was born, and we named him Max. So I don't know. It's just kind of like a bunch of kismet there. So we will be watching that at some point. I don't think there's anything too bad in it. It could probably be when they're like 14, 13, but we will see.
Yeah, I think I saw that one around like early teens, I think.
Yeah.
But that was one I probably would have made my list, but I forgot it was rated R. I
Yeah,
just
I had to
completely
look it
forgot.
up. Yeah, there's just a lot of gore and swearing, I think, and
Yeah.
obviously death and stuff. And I'm glad they went for the rated R. I think is some nudity with the women and stuff in the caves, but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
So that is my number two. What is
Yeah, that's a
yours?
great choice.
Thank you.
My number two is, so there's been a pattern. It's been a lot of horror films, but I'm switching it up for this one.
Okay.
I had to throw a Tarantino on here, and
Yeah.
that would be Pulp Fiction for me.
Nice. Okay.
Um, that I haven't seen all of his filmography yet, but I've seen a few, and Pulp Fiction was a standout for me.
Hmm.
Um, my first experience watching it was in a huge group, and I think that is why I enjoyed that experience so much. It was with somebody who is a huge Tarantino fan, and then he was having I think it was high school. He was having a birthday celebration or whatever, and he's like, "Just watch Pulp Fiction," and we're like, "Okay, all right." Most of us hadn't seen it before, so it was awesome. And there were several scenes in that movie where it's like, "What the fuck?" And we're all just
Yeah.
like, what's going on? Like, this
Yes.
is crazy. And I mean, just the cast is incredible. Just great
Hmm.
names, incredible talent, obviously, and it's just and it's rated R, and it's funny too. It has the comedy when it needs it, and it
Yeah.
works. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
forced, but it's just a great. And I love the nonlinear storytelling of it as well. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't like it, from what I've heard, but I don't
Well,
mind it. I think it's cool. It adds mystery to it.
For sure. I like it when it's done well, and it is done very well in Pulp Fiction,
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
And it's a classic for a reason. And I tried to watch it when I was like 15 or something, and I just ended up having to turn it off because I didn't understand. And then time
Mhm.
went on, and I just kept pushing it, and like I ended up watching it, and I'm like, what couldn't I understand? So I think you
Yeah,
got to be a certain age to appreciate it and understand the time jumping aspect, you
yeah,
know. But yeah,
yeah. It's
that's
and
a
again,
good one.
it's one of those that's like, there's a lot of specific content in it that's like, oh, okay, this has to be. And I saw it where I think I was 16 or 17, so I think at that point I was pretty, okay with seeing that type of stuff. But again, a lot of these, it's kind of just case by case. It depends. I'm not telling anybody out there to show their 13-year-old Pulp Fiction or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, for
um,
sure. I think as a
but
parent, you know when your kids are ready to watch something like that.
it's exactly it. Yeah, and again, it's kind of one of those that I like. It's one that I can't wait for them to watch, but also I'm gonna kind of sit back and be like, okay, well, let's see kind of where they're at and
Yeah,
when I think is a good time for them to check it out. But
yeah,
um, I just want to be there when they see it for the first time because it was
yeah,
an experience when I saw it in with multiple people, and I want to share that experience with them as well.
yeah. Exactly. See, there were some actually I was going to put on this list, and then I'm like, no, there's a sex scene in that movie. I do not want to sit with my kids through a sex scene in a movie or whatever. They can watch that on their own. So like something, but all of these movies, I want to be there when my kids are watching them. I
Mhm.
want, whether or not like with Pulp Fiction, it's to help them explain a bit, or Schindler's List, where I'm like, okay, guys, so like this is hard to watch, like at times, but it's a true story. We need to know this, blah blah blah. So yeah, so I totally get it, and that's one that I can't wait to show my kids as well. All the ones on your
Yeah,
list so far, I want to show my kids.
yeah, and
um,
again, I haven't seen a lot of Tarantino. I think well, he's got 9 films, 10 films. I think 9.
Technically, yeah, and I like all of his movies. Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen them. I've seen 3, so I still have a
yeah.
lot to go through. But this one to
Wow,
me was the standout,
I'm jealous.
and just the
Yeah,
one that I was like, this is oh my god, this is great.
good. Um, so yeah, I guess we're at our number ones. So my categories were movies I need to show my kids, war, horror comedy, action drama, and my number one category is basically horror, but they can also go into the subgenre of creature horror or technically alien horror. And that is Alien and The Thing. Um, I have two movies that I absolutely adore. Um, and obviously, when I say Alien, I will probably make them watch Aliens as well, and
Of
probably the whole
course, of
series
course.
eventually. Yeah, yeah. But the thing is pretty close to being right up there because it is such a well done movie with the suspense, and you don't know who's who and who's bad and who's infected and what's going on, and like you're on the edge of your seat. um and I think it's a really good movie to show them, you know, like an isolated how well a movie can be done in like a one bunker with practical effects. And that's what I'm just as excited to show them about as Aliens. I think Aliens, I love it so much that I think I will be super nervous that they're gonna look at me like, what the fuck is this, Dad?
Yeah, or be like, I hate this. This is not good. Yeah,
Because I think it's 50 years old now, or
yeah, I
it's
think so. Getting there.
Alien 1979. So yeah, 80, 90,
Jeez.
2000, 2010, 2020. Okay, so it's
Yeah,
uh it's a little over 40 years old because yeah, so I know they had their 40th anniversary. Okay.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so my that's my number one. I think a lot of people could have seen it coming, but sir.
I figured it'd probably be number one if it wasn't on your list already. And I was like,
I didn't
okay.
I didn't want to say it when you were saying it because mine was so high. But if they were around the same spot, I would have just jumped on with you. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And again, it's kind of these five. Again, it was really hard to decide one over the other, but it's really not. Again, like I like these more than the other. It's kind of more just like here's five, that I would love to experience with. So,
yeah.
but this one that I'm about to say will always be number one. I think, unless I see
Okay.
another R-rated film that I like better. But um, it's I've already mentioned it once today, and it's the original Scream. Uh,
Okay. Yes. Yes.
but again, like I said, it's my favorite horror film. But again, that first experience of watching it, where you're trying to figure out who this killer is, and they throw in all like the red herrings, but you don't really realize it until you until you watch the movie, then you rewatch it, and you're like, oh, okay, they were just trying to throw us off here. But
Yeah.
that first time where you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, well, it's one of here's our cast of characters. It's one of these people, but then also finding out that okay, there's not one, but there's two people. That in itself is even more of a twist, and it's just like I remember watching that for the first time and being like, this is just genius writing. Like
Yeah.
I nothing that happened in that movie I could have predicted. I definitely wasn't predicting who was gonna get killed off. I wasn't predicting who it was gonna be. I wasn't even predicting there was gonna be two of them. So
Yeah.
that again, this is especially one that I want to be there with because it means a lot to me. It's my favorite horror film, but
Totally.
I can't wait to see the reaction of when the reveal happens.
Totally. I'm right there with you. That is a great. It's a series. I think that like if one of my kids is really into horror, I think it's maybe a series I would start with,
For sure.
and
Yeah.
and go down that rabbit hole. Excuse me. Sorry. And yeah, I think I would love to watch all of them with my kids because I think it's one of the series that I don't dislike any of them. Some
Yeah,
are
I
better than
agree.
others, obviously. Um, and it's funny, like these newer ones have gotten people who I aren't really movie fans in my life to go and watch the old ones, and they love them. But
Oh, like the radio silence ones?
what do
Five,
you?
like you talk about 5 and 6.
Yeah, right. Okay, yes, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't. What's radio silence mean?
Oh, Radio Silence is the directing duo. That's the like they have like
Oh,
a and they have like their own
okay.
production company and stuff. That's the directing duo, and then like one of the executive producers on both of those films is part of it.
Oh,
But that's just the name they go by. I
I didn't know that.
that's a nerd thing. So yeah,
No, like I
that's what they
should
go
have.
by, I guess.
I should. I've never seen it. Whenever I've looked at the directors,
Yeah,
it's always,
it's just their names. So like I think a lot of people kind of look over that, but
huh?
yeah, they I guess they kind of call themselves Radio Silence. So then like you'll see like because they just did that film Abigail as well. And then
Yeah. Okay.
in the opening credits it says like a Radio Silence production.
You have taught me something. You have learnt me something new, and I
Oh,
appreciate
there you
it
go.
because I
There's my
knew
film nerd thing for you.
Tyler Gillette is one of them,
Yeah,
and because he did Ready or Not.
that was both of them also. Yeah.
So yeah, so I've seen everything they've done.
Yeah, and then
Cool.
they started with the VHS, the original one. They did one of those segments as well.
Oh, okay. Which you just watched.
Yes, I
All
did. Yeah.
those. Yeah. Okay. So we have done our top fives. Well, for me, it's more like top 14, and I'm sorry, but thank you for indulging me. I think I had a little bit more to get off my chest because I have two boys, and it's something I've
Fair.
really been thinking about. Do you have any honorable mentions that you almost put on, but you didn't?
A couple, yeah. One that I completely forgot to even think of was Mad Max Fury Road, so that would probably be in there as well.
For sure.
And I didn't even think about it until you said it, but
That
a
happens.
couple. I have like three that I'll just kind of really quickly breeze by. One being The Exorcist. Uh, I think that's rated R. It probably
Yeah,
is.
yeah, it is, and it is on my honorable mentions as well.
Okay.
I think it's one that I will have to show them at one time, but like even I think even they would have to be 18 or 19 because it is pretty bad, and
Mhm.
it's I wouldn't say it's like a it doesn't it doesn't grip you, but it does and it doesn't. But anyways, continue.
No, it's pretty much exactly the same reasoning.
Yeah,
I would probably show it a little bit later as well, but it was just I remember seeing it and I was freaked out. But I
yeah,
was even older at that time, and I loved horror, but it was one that I remember just it's sticking with me pretty but
for sure, for sure.
for a while. And again, it's iconic. Um, another one that's horror as well, but this is just one again. It's for the first watch experience that I love so much about it. But it's The Descent.
Oh,
Um,
that's like one of my
I
favorite horror movies of
love
all time.
I
Yeah,
yeah, I love that movie.
me
That's
too.
probably in my top five horror films.
Yeah.
And again, it's that first experience. I and I'll get through the story quickly, but I remember watching it for the first time with a group of friends, and it was his dad again was a big movie guy, and he had those zip up like CD cases with the sleeves in it,
Yeah.
and or a DVD, not CD, DVD cases, and we were just there one night. We were like, let's find something to watch. So we saw The Descent, and just the art on the disc itself
Oh yeah.
was enough to be like, this looks cool. Let's
Yeah.
watch it. So we didn't know anything about the movie, which made it even better. Like
For
none of us
sure.
looked up a synopsis or anything. We just put it in and hit play, and I was like, oh, the horror part is that they're gonna get trapped in this cave, but
Right.
that's not even close. Like, yeah, that's part of it, but then there's this whole other part that's
Yeah.
scary about this movie that I
Well, and
wasn't
that
expecting at all.
opening scene in
It,
that movie
yeah, even that too was I didn't
is
expect that at
you're
all.
thrown right into the horror, right? It's yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I remember that experience being really great, and that's another one that I'd be okay with them maybe watching it with like a group of friends or something. But if I was there to watch it with them, cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's also just besides like once all the twists happen, it's just another great like action film as well. Once everything kind of
Oh
is
yeah.
revealed.
Of course. It's a great like thriller action with some really good horror aspects and some gore and stuff. Like you get a little bit of everything, and
Hmm.
it's one horror movie that I it's the one I recommend to everyone because not enough people have seen it. I think in the horror
Yeah,
community it's big enough, but if someone's just getting into horror, I always say The Descent. So, yeah.
yeah. Um,
Um
I I have one more if you don't mind.
yeah, no. Yeah, go.
This one was actually one that I had to look up because I wasn't sure if it was rated R. Right before we started filming, I was like, I don't know if this one's rated R, but I looked it up and it is. And this is just one that I always enjoyed, but it's Whiplash.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Damon Chazelle, love that
Oh,
movie.
I
As
saw
the
it, but I just assumed it wasn't rated R, so I assumed it was like PG-13.
It's exactly what I thought too, because I was like thinking back to it, and I was like, is there really anything that would push it to be rated R, or like anything that makes it seem that way? And then I was remembering some of the stuff that J.K. Simmons says to Miles
Oh,
Teller in
for
that movie.
sure.
I was like, yeah, that definitely, that wouldn't fly in a PG-13 movie. So,
Yeah.
but again, it's a great drama film, and I think a great exploration of humanity and a lot of parts of the human brain, and a great, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but a great exploration of how far
Uh
somebody's willing to go
yeah, yeah, like
for
yeah,
what they love, for their
yeah,
passion,
art.
and yeah, for art, or all, but then also to the duality of that, somebody being that abusive to you
Yeah.
and feeling like because of that you have to be, you know, the best you can be. But that, that the performances that alone are great, but I just love it too as a musician and as a drummer. It was a great film.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's just a great drama, and
And oh, for sure. And yeah, I think it could bring up good conversations about abuse and pushing yourself too
Mhm.
hard, and when to, like, when to give up or when not to give up. It what kind of abuse is too much of abuse, or
Yeah.
should Miles Teller be taking this abuse? Like, yeah, it could bring up a lot of questions and thoughts in
Yeah.
their mind. So
And it's
yeah.
I think too it's a great kind of like one of my favorite themes of that film is just like how far someone is pushed till they reach their breaking point.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
that's the whole when I get to the end and we finally see that moment. Um, I think it's the whole movies is played out beautifully. Um, but yeah, that was I think one of the first dramas that I remember seeing, and it was so good. I guess that's probably the only drama on the list, but I just had to throw one in there, and that movie too is just it's one that I always remember.
No, that's that's a good drama. I'll just go through mine quickly. The one thing I have to say though is I was trying to look at some documentaries, and most of them are there's not really many rated R documentaries that I'm
Oh yeah,
interested in. Um, but Manchester by the Sea is one that I love. Seven by David Fincher, the Scream series, like you said, Parasite from a few years ago, um, The Exorcist, like you said, and then Signs was another one just because of my that scary moment. I want to be there when they see that alien go across the
totally. Yeah.
screen. Um, so the Film Vault, which we are affiliated with, they did their this episode back December 2021, and I have heard from our listeners, and these are some movies that they want to show their kids. So Raven Xavier wants to show Pulp Fiction. He says Pulp Fiction, duh. Mark Sherling says Deadpool trilogy and Pulp Fiction. Keith Shepard wants to show American Pie 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Magnolia. Um, Elizabeth Ann Cantu says Shawshank Redemption, which I almost put on my list. Mike
Oh
Cole
yeah,
says
I forgot about that one.
Terminator. Yeah. Mike Cole says Terminator 2, which is a good one, I think. Bruce Perky said Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Is that
Ooh,
number two, or is that's the first one, right?
I think Golden Circle is number two because I think the first one was just called The Secret Service, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I think you're right. So interesting, Bruce.
I
I don't
was
know if you.
just talking about that movie today, actually. Funny enough.
Okay, I don't know if Bruce is joshing us here. I'll have to ask him, but I remember the first
Yeah,
one, liking the first one quite a bit.
yeah, I agree.
Nathan Day says, "You can't prove they're my kids, Your Honor." Pete Abeta says, "Star Wars, the OG trilogy in order." And then he said, "Come and see." That is a harrowing war movie for someone that hasn't seen it. I think he is trying to scar his kids. Joseph Navarro says, "From Dusk Till Dawn" and Blade 1 and 2. Adam Murphy says Terminator, Predator, Romero's Dead trilogy, and the Evil Dead films. I almost put Predator and the Evil Dead films on my list. And a man named Mike on Instagram said Solo, LOL, JK, Fight Club. So those are some really good mentions. Thank you, everyone. As always, you can watch us live here on YouTube, Twitch, and go follow me over at TikTok so I can stream over there. And uh, I'm basically doing these episodes monthly, and I want to thank Blake for being my guest this week. That was a lot of fun, and we went to an hour and a half. I didn't know if we would get there or not. Um, we got a comment here. No one said mice and men. I do not think that movie is rated R, but I could be wrong. Um, but anyways, so Blake, if you want to plug your socials one more time before we head out, where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram is where I'm mainly active. You can follow me at Blake Walker Audio, which is just first and last name with audio at the end, no underscores, spaces, caps, nothing. I post there pretty frequently, almost every day. I'm also on TikTok, um, same username as well. So you can follow me there. I basically just post every once in a while. Um, and then Facebook as well. You could probably find that through Instagram since I think they're kind of
Right.
in the same network now.
Yeah.
But and then as well, eventually my website will be launched, hopefully within the next month or so, and the link to that will also be on the account on Instagram. So
Perfect.
just go through Instagram and check everything else
Well,
out from there. But
and Blake's gonna send all this to me, and I'm gonna put it in the show notes, his Instagram and his letterbox, so people can follow you there as well. So, anyways, I want to thank Blake for being my guest. Thank you so much, Blake. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to the Film Vault for allowing me to do this show with them. And you please go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at the Hollywood Persona. I mean, that's my other podcast. Plug. At the Film Vultures. The Film Vultures. So we're gonna leave everyone. We're gonna leave you. We're gonna get the hell out of here. You stay on with me for just a minute after the music goes out, if you don't mind.
excellent. I do not mind at all.
Don't leave. Okay. So it has